There's a really beautiful story I read. There was an explorer. I don't know. I'm very bad with years, but I remember the stories. And it was there was an explorer in England who went and bumped into an undiscovered tribe, right? They hadn't made contact with the English. And this guy befriended them and they welcomed him in and all things were good. And then he like sort of learned to communicate with them. And it was this beautiful little journey where he learned their way of life and had a wonderful time. And they were really an altruistic, community. And they had different laws, by the way. Sort of murder was legal in some ways. You could just kill somebody. Yeah. And then the tribe was just like, all right, well, you did it. And we keep it moving. We don't like judge you. We don't. But he was like, surprisingly, everyone didn't kill each other. So they were definitely different, right? After spending, months or even years with them, he goes back to England and he says to like the chief of the tribe and like somebody else, he's like, hey, you should come with me to England. And they travel back to England and they're like spending time with him and his family. You can imagine this life now. You've gone from like the jungle to, London.
Victorian London.
Yeah. And he says to them, he says, what do you think? And he says like, he thought these guys are going to be mesmerized because there's technology and like there's, carriages and there's all kinds of stuff. He's like, so what do you think? And he says they were not impressed at all. The only thing that impressed them was the butchery. They were really shocked that you could just go and get meat. They were like, what? They were like, that's the only thing that made them happy. They're like, wow, you could just go get meat anytime you want. That's pretty cool. Everything else they didn't care about. And it culminated in a question that they asked him one day. After a week or so of staying together, he came home and one of the tribe's people asked him, said, hey, where do you go every day? The guy said, what? And he said, every day you leave this house, you're gone. We're here with like your family. Mm-hmm. And then you come back. Where do you go every day? And he's like, oh, I go to work. And they're like, They're like, well, why don't you take your family with you? And he's like, yeah, they don't allow that at my work. That's not how we do things here. And they go, oh, okay. And they're like, well, do you like your work more than your family? And he's like, no, I love my family the most. And they said, well, then why don't you quit your work and just stay with your family? Yeah. And he said, no, I have to work for my family so that we can live. And then they said, well, this system doesn't make sense because if you're working to be with your family, but you have to leave your family to go to work, then you're doing the wrong thing in the wrong way. And then he said, well, how do you do it? I have to have the house and I have to. And they said, in our community, when somebody needs a house, we all come together, we build them a house. It takes us about a month. There's now a house. And then we go back to living our lives with our families. And if somebody needs something else, we get together, we do that for them, and then we go back. And he says it was the first time that he was ever confronted with the notion that the way we live isn't normal, like the office, the work, the family, the thing. And then they went back. By the way, he was like, do you guys want to? They're like, oh, no. We're very happy to leave. By the way, give us some meat. That was really cool. And then they went back home and they lived their lives.